May I have your attention, please? Thank you for attending this evening, in which we will have a brief ceremony in regard to our new turf fields and renovations to our high school stadium. I am Dr. Richard Perry, Haddonfield Superintendent of Schools. I'd like to officially welcome everyone to the beginning of a new season, a season filled with aspirations, hopes, and dreams for our students, not only during the 2013-14 school year, but for the decades to come. This day marks a new beginning for both the school district and community of Haddonfield. Due to a collaborative, community-wide effort and the generosity of many, the new fields before us, both anniversary and the high school field, signify a community coming together around a common cause and a shared vision that will ultimately benefit our students for many generations to come, including students involved in football, field hockey, soccer, lacrosse, marching band, track and field, and many youth and extracurricular programs. I'd like to give a special thanks to the members of the Community Turf Committee, former and present mayors and borough commissioners, and the members of the Board of Education for their dedication, determination, and courage in making this dream a reality. Thank you for a job well done. At this time, we will have the following speakers who will be saying a few words in regard to this opening day. Speakers including Mr. Bill Reynolds, who was a former mayor, community leader on many levels, and whose father was a former superintendent of schools for Haddonfield. Mr. Joe Del Duca, an alumni, a former Haddonfield football player, and the leader of the Community Turf Committee. Mr. Steve Weinstein, former Board of Education President, current Board of Education member, and Vice President and Legal Counsel for Rowan University. Ms. Tish Colombi, esteemed mayor for many years for Haddonfield and community leader over several decades. And the last speaker will be Mr. Jeff Casco, the current mayor of Haddonfield and borough commissioner for the past several years. Before we begin with Mr. Reynolds, we're going to hear from our band. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. Dr. Perry asked me to come tonight and share some comments about memories and traditions. There's a lot of tradition on this field, starting in the 1920s. I knew many of the people who played then, and they shared a number of memories with me. The first games that were played on this field, there was no stadium. There was a cinder track. Back over there where the Bancroft School is, there was a meadow full of sheep, and the goalposts were made out of wood. Those were their memories. I have some memories of my own. When I was growing up here in town, we did not have any organized football until freshman year in high school. So for the first 9 years, we played sandlot football, touch football, and the first real game of football I ever played was right here on this field. was a Thursday night, like this, and I think I was probably the worst left tackle ever to play for Haddonfield. I was lucky, though, because I had some great coaches. The head coach, Russ Spicer, and the line coach, Bill France, worked with me and encouraged me. And while I didn't have any natural talent, they were very patient, and I did get to play a bit. I was big and clumsy, and I ended up most of the time on the bottom of the pile. From the bottom of the pile in October, it's not so bad, because the cleats have not yet torn up the middle of the field. But when you're on the bottom of the pile, and it gets to be about the middle or the end of October, and it hasn't rained in a while, and you don't wear face masks or mouthpieces, if it hasn't rained, you come up with a mouthful of dust and grit. If it has rained, you come up with a mouthful of mud. And I often did that. It was one day my junior year, when somebody who must have weighed, I guess, 750 pounds from Woodbury landed on my leg when I was on the bottom of the pile, and that put an end to my athletic career permanently. Years later, when I became mayor, I was also responsible for the Recreation Council, and Bill France, my former line coach, was Haddonfield's Director of Recreation. One night after a Rec Council meeting, he and I were chatting, and I said to him, "You know, Bill, I think I must have been one of the worst players ever to be on your line in Haddonfield." He got a smile on his face and a twinkle in his eye and said, "Bill, you weren't one of the worst, you were the worst." So, as somebody who was face to face with this field on many, many occasions, it is with deep personal sense of appreciation tonight for me to recognize the organizers of the fundraising, Joe Del Duca, Jack Tarditti, Tom Walsh, Linda McLaughlin, and the rest of the committee who worked so long and hard to fund this very, very wonderful new addition to Haddonfield sports programs. I also want to thank all of the people who contributed, generous folks who made this possible, all of the people who were behind the project, along with Steve Weinstein, Rich Perry, Board of Education, faculty, parents, Alumni Society, and HMHS students. Also, special appreciation to the commissioners, Tish, Ed, and Jeff. Without them, this couldn't have happened. All of you here, in the best tradition of our community, recognized the need and came together to make this very important upgrade to Haddonfield sports program possible. So now, as the officially recognized worst left tackle ever to play for HMHS, and on behalf of all those generations of untalented linemen who since 1927, on the bottom of the pile, have had their faces rubbed in the dirt and mud of this field as they chased their big dreams, and on behalf of those future generations of student athletes, talented and untalented alike, who will also have their big dreams, but who will no longer have to eat dirt to chase them. A very heartfelt, well done, Haddonfield, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. As indicated, my name is Joe Del Duca. I'm here representing the Turf Field Committee tonight. It is my pleasure and my honor to do that. We worked together for a long time. It was a labor of love. And I can tell you that it's nice to have such a tangible piece of proof behind us of all of the hard work that we put in for all of these years. It's been a wonderful ride and we've enjoyed it. Mostly I'm here tonight to say thank you. There are an awful lot of people to thank. I've condensed the list. After all, we have a game to play tonight, but there are some people that we need to thank. First and foremost, we'd like to thank the Borough Commissioners, past and present, and in particular, Tish, Ed, and Jeff, who we worked together with for a number of years to make this happen. Also, the Board of Education, past and present, and in particular, Steve Weinstein and Rich Curry, again, who we worked with for a number of years, and who cooperated with us to make this happen. I'd also like to thank the Turf Field Committee. I'm not going to mention every single person on the committee. You know who you are, you know how hard you worked and what you put in. It was a pleasure to work with each and every one of you. I do have to say there are a couple people that I have to mention. I would be remiss if I didn't. First, Bonnie Walter and Lori Riggs Kadar. Who made every meeting, never missed an opportunity to do whatever work was required, got to tell me what to do a lot, and did an unbelievable job with the energy and the effort that they put in. I should mention that Bonnie's has led the paver detail, and for those of you wondering, we haven't forgotten, your pavers are going to go in the walkway next year when we open the stadium. The pavers will be there. The paver program is still open, and we hope that you continue to buy them, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a second. I'd also finally like to mention the co-chair and person who probably did the most work on this, Linda McLaughlin. Her skill and expertise and tireless effort made this possible, and we would not be here without her help. I'd also like to recognize some of our special donors this evening, and there aren't a lot, but they're very important. First and foremost, the Haddonfield Educational Trust, who helped us from the beginning to the end. They handled all the money in the transactions. They worked with us all the way through. They had a golf tournament for us. It was wonderful. They made a very generous donation in the name of Robert and Alice Marshall and their estate. I went to school with Susan Marshall, one of my classmates, and interestingly enough, back when I played football on this high school field, no one else was allowed on the field except the football team. I'm happy to say that that's not the case anymore. But there was a powder puff football game on this field that was a benefit for a boy in our conference who had broken his neck, and Sue Marshall was the tailback. She scored more touchdowns in that game than I scored in my entire career. She was an amazing athlete and a great person, and unfortunately she passed away. The Marshall family has been very generous. I'd like to mention the Haddonfield Foundation, John Augliolero and Joan Carter, the Remington family, the Silvestri family, Joanne and Sam Thomas, Tom and Penny Welsh, who were both on the committee. Not only were they generous donors, but they put their time and effort in, and again, without their help, we would not be here today. The Carson family, Ron and Roseanne Clark, and Ron Clark Orthodontics. Representing them tonight is a classmate and friend of mine, Cheryl Dalmas Miller, behind me somewhere. We went to school together, also a classmate of Susan's and her brothers. All were great football players on this field. The Riggs and Kadar family, Lori and Tom Kadar, are both here today. That wouldn't be right if I didn't mention the Riggses, who I've known since I was a little boy, and in particular Dr. Riggs, who's been wonderful with me. Probably has seen more sporting events in Haddonfield than anybody in the world, except maybe Mr. Miller and maybe Bonnie Walter's dad. Other than that, I can't think of anybody. The O'Shaughnessy family, Dan and Carrie, I know that they're both here tonight. Dan was also on the committee and very helpful. Jack and Barbara Tarditi and family, Amy Heslin and Dan Tarditi are here tonight. I think you all know what Jack Tarditi brings to the community. He has more energy than anybody I've ever met. He was a wonderful part of our fundraising and our committee, and we appreciate his help. TD Bank, John Stefanowicz is here. He's the rep from TD Bank. We appreciate their help. And finally, I'd like to mention Bob Platzer and PJ Wellahans. Chris Webb is here. Not only was Bob unbelievably generous, Every event we ever had, Bob volunteered to bring the PJ's truck, food, his staff. He never charged us a dime for any of that. It's unbelievable how much help he gave us. He never complained. He never even had to be asked. So we really appreciate what he did for us. Finally, and most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you, the people in the community. As it starts to rain, hopefully it's not my fault. We were told that the financial goals were going to be difficult to meet here. We were told that the goal of having this built by the fall of 2013 was difficult to achieve. And we were told that we should assume that at least 10% of the pledged money would never be actually paid. Well, I'm here to tell you that we promised $500,000. We were able to raise and provide $600,000. And we have an additional $50,000 waiting and hopefully available to put lights on Anniversary Field. So we accomplished that goal. I think it's pretty obvious that we finished on time. The field's behind us. And something that I think people don't understand, of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who pledged money, we collected every single penny. Not one person who pledged money did not pay. I don't know of any other campaign where that's ever happened. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that. And now it's time to play the games. When I see that big red H on the field, I know that this isn't just any field. This is our field. And I hope our kids get to enjoy it, play on it, win on it, occasionally lose on it, but always learn from it for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. At this time, I'd like to call Linda McLaughlin and Lori Kadar to the podium. We'll be giving a presentation. Linda?
Okay, well, I will be fast. Hello, everyone. I'm Linda McLaughlin, and I've been a member of the Turf Field Committee since, well, before there even was a Turf Field Committee. So needless to say, being here tonight is very exciting and rewarding. On behalf of all of us on the committee, we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge three very special people within our group whose leadership in this initiative was invaluable. Joe Del Duca, our chair, and a Haddonfield Bulldog from way back, led us with passion, patience, and an unwavering commitment towards our shared goal. Without his leadership, we would not be standing here tonight. Joe brought the required knowledge and expertise to the table that truly made the difference. So, Joe, we thank you sincerely for everything that you have done and for your respective leadership. The other two people are Jack Tarditi and Tom Welsh, the co-chairs of our Capital Campaign Committee. Both Jack and Tom led our charge in our fundraising effort, which was really no easy feat. And without them as well, we might not be standing here tonight. We thank you both for your enthusiastic pursuit to reach our goal and sharing our turf field dream with so many who chose to be a part of this wonderful project. As token of our appreciation, we present to each of you an engraved plaque along with a lifetime entry to all games played here at the stadium on the turf. And Joe, for you, we also have a large stone bulldog, which we will deliver to you since it was way too heavy for any of us ex-athletes to carry out onto the field. Unfortunately, Jack and Tom are not able to be here tonight. Jack, Amy, and Dan is here to accept his gift, and we will most definitely get Penny and Tom Welsh's gift to them as well. Thank you to all of our committee members for a great ride together for the benefit of our young Bulldogs for years to come.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Stephen Weinstein. Steve?
Thank you. Real quickly. First of all, Rich, we're going to find out if that drainage system you promised us for this field works tonight, I think. And secondly, I don't know where Frank Delano is. but he promised if we got the field, he'd go undefeated this year. So that's up to Frank. The value of the field is obvious just by looking at it for our student athletes and people in town. On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank the borough and the committee that raised all the money. One other point, and that is that the lesson here is every time a kid in this town runs onto that field, whether it's a youth league or a high school team, every time they run on the field, the lesson they should remember is what the community can do for them and how the community rose up to provide a benefit for those students. That's the lesson of Haddonfield and living in Haddonfield and growing up. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Next, we have former Mayor Ms. Tish Palmy. Tish?
I'm going to be brief because I think we're all repeating ourselves. I just want to remind you all that this beautiful gift that you see before you is a gift from all of us to the children of our community. And it was delivered on time by the Field Turf Company. Two gentlemen are with us tonight. We must give them a hand. Chris Spitzer and Dave Sullivan. We said we wanted to open our season here. They made it happen. And we thank you. We thank all of you for this wonderful memory for our kids. Dan and I used our lifetime gold passes for the first time to get in here tonight. And the best news we can say is go Dogs. Let's go.
Thank you. I'm going to be 60 seconds or less. I'm proud tonight to stand here as your new mayor and fellow residents in Haddonfield. This is a historic year, not only because we're celebrating 300 years from the foundation or the settlement of Haddonfield, but because we're inaugurating this field today.